Welcome to this episode of the Auto Detailing Podcast. I'm your host, and today on the show we have Damian Angelucci. Did I get it right?
Angelucci.
I got it right.
That's
I
right.
think. Yeah. All right. For those that weren't there with us while before we were recording, that was me practicing his last name. But Damian is from Final Inspection Auto Boutique in Melbourne, Australia. Damian, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Jimbo. Thank you very much.
And if you didn't listen to the pre-roll to this episode, we're going to have Damian on for at least 4 episodes to talk kind of all things detailing and what he's got going on down in Australia with this product line, and really bringing you guys even more content, how you can be more efficient, more effective, and more profitable within your business. So with that said, Damian, why don't you give us a brief background on you personally, how you got into the detailing industry, why you got into the detailing industry, what drew you towards the detailing industry, and all that kind of good stuff.
Sure. So I fell into the detailing industry when I had a detailing job. It was a summer job, and I'd finished high school, and was supposed to go to university to have a proper job. And I had a summer job working at my father's panel shop, and was tinkering with cars, a little bit of panel beating, a little bit of spray painting, and I kind of liked that stuff, but not too much. Then I got into the detailing, and that was the end of university or any other career choice, really. It was just too nice not to do for a living. If you get paid to polish cars and present cars really well, basically what I was doing on the weekend on my own car, but be paid for it and do some lovely cars as well. It was too good not to do for a living. So I did that for quite a few years, professional detailing for quite a few years before we started to evolve and change and evolve. Adapt to what our customers were asking for. The business went through quite a few changes. At that stage, I was a typical professional detailer. We're talking 97, 98, 99, long time ago. And the industry, in Australia anyway, was completely different to the way it is now. It was very, very small. It's still small, but it was tiny then. There were no real high-end detailers. It was all a little rough in comparison to what we have now. And about 2004, we started to get very, very serious, and I took a little bit of a leap and stuck my neck out a little. And what I wanted to do was to tackle the high-end detailing and start to push the limits, and especially in our industry, to push those limits meant to jump out of your comfort zone, possibly not have any backup backup plan. You had to commit to high end, and that was it. And that was a bit of a struggle, but I learnt a lot. Obviously, was successful at it, and that cemented us as some quality detailers, which is good. When I look back at the business, if I hadn't have made that change, we wouldn't be where we are now. It was important to do so. It was tricky to do so. It's a very, very small market here. So you've got a very small circle of customers. They all know each other. So you have to do some very good quality work, be very professional. Definitely don't burn any of your customers, and make sure that they're all looked after very, very well. And that went really, really well.
I have a quick question. When you said panel beating, is that like a body shop?
Sorry, panel beating. Yeah,
I've never heard that term before, so sorry to kind of go way back, but I just wondered if that was a body shop.
I don't know what the guys in the US call it. A body shop work. So major repairs, chassis repairs, panel repairs, not painting.
Okay.
And that's panel beating here, and spray painting. I'm guessing it would be called a similar thing over there.
Yeah, I guess we would call it in the States, some people would literally be spray painting, like we call it a rattle can sometimes, would be
Yep.
rattle canning the car, but just paint,
Yep.
body work and painting, just painting.
Yep, just painting. So yeah, body shop work to us is one thing. It's completely different from detailing. Even though I was a detailer in a body shop, so I worked within the panel shop, and I was at the end of the line where we would detail the cars that had the body shop work complete, which is the best part of the panel shop to work in my opinion. It wasn't. Painting a car is hard. It's really difficult, very difficult, and it's. I felt, especially at that time, that it was could be dangerous as well. It was not something. It was something I loved doing. I love painting cars, but it's not easy. You need a lot of skill, and that has to be developed over time, just like a detailer. But to get great results, you really need to stick at it. And I didn't really love it as much as I love detailing, so I didn't stick at it. I went further down the line. I love presenting the cars to the customers. Just perfect. You know, all the little the minor details, the cleaning and the getting the car just finished just right. The painters do their job really well. A good painter does his job very well. And if the repair's done very well, the detailer can achieve a really nice finish. So everyone's important, but that final step is where the car transforms from being in good condition to showroom or concourse, and that was the most exciting step for me.
Love that. So then you started detailing, and I'm assuming you had a detailing shop from the very beginning. Is that true?
No, sorry, I did. So in '97, I worked out of a detailing shop, which is a car wash with some detailing.
Okay.
The majority of the work was car washing. The car washing business supported the detailing, not the other way around, which was a shame. And the detailing we were doing was horrible. It was horrible. It was the bottom of the barrel work, which I think is really important. A lot of the detailers that I hire and train, a lot of my detailing assistants now will never know that type of work, will never have that experience. And I think that a professional detailer it is worthwhile to have that experience, to detail the worst of the worst cars and understand
Absolutely.
how bad it can get. I think it teaches you to become a better detailer. And unfortunately, in the business that we have now, we don't have any of that work. Our clientele is completely different to what I had in 97, 98, 99. At 99, I went mobile, like most other detailers.
Okay.
So I worked out of a little small car, and changed a few cars. I won't bother you with the details. I worked out of some tiny little cars. I don't know how I fit my equipment in there now that I think about it. And we did the usual thing. So we fought with the sun and the wind and the rain, and that was extremely difficult. Having to work in a different environment every day was difficult. Someone's garage would be lit very well. Some other person's garage would be cramped. It was horrible working conditions. Having them so inconsistent, and not having all your tools in the same place every day was horrible. But again, I think it makes you a better tradesman when you learn how to work in the more difficult conditions.
Definitely. I get a lot of these guys that reach out to me, and they're either working at a detail shop, or they kind of mess around with detailing on the side on nights and weekends and stuff like that, and they say, hey, should I go open up a only a paint correction and coating shop? And I tell them, they're like, I've been doing it on the side a year, 6 months. And I tell them, that's where I would really agree with you, as like, no, don't do it. I guess the caveat is, if you can get away with it, do it.
If you can, financially, if you can do it.
If you can do it, but the reality is for most people, it's going to be extremely difficult to go from this idea of, I want to start detailing, to working on multi-$100,000, $1 million cars initially. And like you said, it kind of gives you, when you work on those cars that are just completely thrashed, you learn little tips and tricks and kind of oddball techniques that really you never forget, and
Yes.
it does carry over into the higher end detailing for sure.
It does. It makes you a better detailer. Detailing the high-end cars are tricky. They have their own. Issues. Leaning over wide cars and low cars. That's difficult. And to me, the best cars to detail, and we get a lot of them here, your Volkswagen Golf, your Audi A4, those slab-sided square cars. They are the best thing to detail. They're very, very easy to work on. They've got great paint quality, great paint workmanship. The more difficult cars are the exotics, and then even more difficult cars again are the cars that are thrashed. As you said, they're just in such a poor way. It's so difficult to make them look good, and that's where a truly good detailer will shine. They'll be able to make something that is able to come up. You can't make a car that's damaged beyond repair, detailing wise. You can't bring that back from the brink. But if the imperfections on the vehicle are all within the clear coat and the car just looks tired, a good detailer can make that car look completely different.
100%. So how long? So then you went mobile detailing, and then you went back to a shop. Sorry, we're kind of getting into the weeds with that, but I have a plan.
Yep, mobile detailing to build up clientele. So I always wanted to get back into a shop, and I actually recommend the opposite to most of my mobile detailers. I will always recommend a workshop. You're always better off in a workshop. There are a couple of downsides though. You have overheads which can kill a business. It can be detrimental if you don't have enough clientele or enough regular clientele. So you have to make sure that you can support those overheads. You're more efficient in a workshop, so that's a good thing about a workshop. You have controlled conditions, so you don't have sun, wind, rain. You have your power and water sources in the same place every day, so you're going to the same place every day, and you know where everything is, and you become more efficient. Another downside is that some customers don't like and will not drive to a workshop and leave their car at a workshop. I did lose a few clients, not many, just a handful of clients who would not drive their car to our workshop. They just would not bring it to the workshop. For whatever reason, it was worth $2 million and they didn't want to leave it in a workshop. And especially workshops that detailers can afford are usually not in the best locations.
Yeah, it's the shady building out back.
Yeah, our location is good here, but not great. There's two reasons why we are located where we are. One is to keep the renters as affordable as possible, so we don't have to pass those extraordinary costs of some of the locations on to our customers, which I think some customers appreciate.
Yeah.
And we're well located. We're situated well because we're near the Melbourne's airport. A lot of our customers are business people, and I say to my professional detailers who are looking to buy a workshop, location is super important. As with all real estate, location is one of the most important, if not the most important aspect of real estate. Putting yourself in the right location so that you're accessible to customers and so the customers can see, so it's not inconvenient for the customers to get to, and they can actually see some value in you being there. For instance, our customers will come to our workshop, we'll shuttle them to the airport, they leave for business, and then we shuttle them back when they return. They collect their car and they drive home, and it's very, very convenient. Being in this location has done wonderful things for our business.
Smart, very smart, and it's so important to look at and kind of strategize before you pick a place for a detailer. Okay, so I want to get into where did the product range come from, or what was kind of the genesis of? So you're a detailer, you're in a shop, you're in a mobile shop, or you're a mobile detailer, then you're back in a shop. Where did what was kind of the genesis of creating your own product line?
Yeah, so I was talking to a customer after a detail one day, and we found out he was a chemist. He made hair shampoo and dishwashing liquid and things like that. Chemists are very specialised. They'll do one thing very, very well, and they'll learn nothing about something else. And I had an idea. I said, look, I'd like a product that had specific characteristics. So I'm using all these different brands, and I'm only using 1 or 2 products from each brand. And I really wish that my car shampoo worked like this particular product from this brand, but also had that particular characteristic from that brand, and so on and so forth. And he helped me manufacture a product just for our own use that would allow us to wash cars and have a certain formula that would it was something that we were after that didn't exist in the market, and we made it ourselves for our own use. And we did. We made that. We made a batch of that. I learned how to do it. I can't thank him enough. He kicked off what is Final Inspection Car Care Products today. And we were using that ourselves. Then another separate customer saw us using that product and asked what the product was and asked all about it. And I gave that customer a little sample of the product. I said, here you go, try that, see what you think. And he rang me after he was maintaining his car with that product and said, this is the greatest body shampoo ever. I haven't used a car wash that works like this, that behaves this way, and I want to buy it.
What were those specific things that he said? What was different about it? What were those little characteristics that he mentioned?
Yeah. The main thing was the lubrication. So we wanted a product with a lot of lubrication, that something that would minimize swirling a surface. So when we were preparing a car and we were washing a car, and also when we were maintaining the car, so preparing it for detail and washing the car for the detail, and also maintaining cars, it's important to have as much lubrication as possible so you don't push particles into the surface and along the surface and create those, any imperfections really, but swirl marks usually. Usually when you wash a car, you have the mechanical action of rubbing that mitt or the sponge. You shouldn't be using a sponge, but a mitt or anything, whatever that material is that you're rubbing against the paintwork back and forth, that mechanical action always will create some imperfections. If you can have some lubricant in between those two surfaces, and you can avoid as much as possible pushing the debris down into that surface, it's beneficial. And the main, the nicest characteristic of that body shampoo, which is a beta product which never was retailed, was that it was highly lubricating. It also didn't have any fragrances. It actually didn't smell very good. It didn't smell very good at all, but that wasn't a priority. It had no foam, no foaming agents. At that time, most shampoos, dishwashing liquids would have SLSs, sodium lauryl sulfate, and some other similar products. And those foaming agents did really nothing other than to create suds, which looked great, but we couldn't find any data to support that those foaming agents were actually doing anything. The foam itself didn't lubricate. It was a very poor lubricator. On glossy surfaces like glass and paint, it's not required to have foam. Foaming agents are good for fabrics where you need the foam to move around the fibres and clean around those fibres. On paintwork and glass and chrome, you don't need foam. It's completely unnecessary. What you do need is thick lubricants that provide some suspension and stop you from pushing those particles in. And that's basically all it did. It was actually a very simple formula of about 4 raw ingredients. It's a little more complicated, not too more complicated now, but back then it was just 4 main ingredients, and it was the perfect product. It really was at the time. And that's what the customer liked most about the product. He said it had a lot of suspension to it, and it felt like the mitt was just gliding across the surface. It actually did a very good job of cleaning, and at that time he was using some Canuba paste waxes which didn't last very long. So most of the car washes he was using to maintain his car were stripping the carnauba waxes very quickly. And carnauba waxes were difficult to apply, time-consuming to apply. There was a lot of mechanical action applying the carnauba waxes, so the chances of you creating swirling as you're applying your protection were high. So you wanted to minimise the amount of applications, and you didn't want to strip the carnauba wax or any protection you had faster than you needed to. So in order to do that, we didn't add foaming agents, which we found stripped wax. We didn't add anything that was unnecessary at all, and we made a product that the number one priority of this product, the number one characteristic that we wanted was that suspension, the lubrication as you're washing. And he loved that product and asked us to sell it to him. We did provide him with a couple of samples, and then we did our homework and realised it was illegal to sell the product to him. And we either had to not sell the product to him or discontinue selling a product, supply him for free, which we were not willing to do, and or properly retail that product. And after a bit of thought and some investment, which was at the time, it was a huge investment at the time. It was a bit scary. We manufactured a large quantity. We did all the right things, the things we had to do, stability tests and packaging. We went to visit a solicitor. Not sure if that's what it's called in the US. A solicitor is a lawyer.
Oh, okay. There you go.
And made sure that we had all the right safety directions on the packaging. And we retailed one product, which was body shampoo. It was called Paint Pampering Body Shampoo. It was a beautiful product. We had one product in our range.
That's what I was just gonna. I was holding back from interrupting you because I feel bad, but I wanted to highlight two things. Is that you started with your own raw materials, or not your own raw materials, but you started with raw materials, and you were actually having this stuff formulated yourself. You didn't just take someone else's manufactured product, change the color, change the smell, and slap a label on it, like a lot of car care brands do. You actually had a need, sourced out how to make this need, and fulfilled the need, and then didn't go, oh wow, this is great, we can even start with this one product and let's just private label everything else. As we'll get to eventually, I'm sure you did this with all your products, but I love that and we could elaborate on it even more if you want to, but just the fact that you didn't just private label someone else's stuff, and you started with one product. I love that.
Yeah, that one product was our product, and we didn't reverse engineer other products. We wanted to reverse engineer all the products we liked and find out a little more about those products, but we didn't do that till later on. So later on, we actually reverse engineered a few different products, and we do that constantly now. Every week now, we buy products from all around the world. We test them. If we like something, we have a closer look at that product and find out what it is, what it is that we like about it. How can we improve on that product and add that characteristic to our product? But back then it was much simpler, much cheaper. It was viable. It was completely unviable to do what we do now. But back then we could. It was the most efficient way to move forward with creating that product was to simply create it from scratch. And the person that created it for us made similar products. So he would make dishwashing liquids and hair shampoos. And although the products he made were not what he wanted to create, so he had an issue, and he liked working for us because we said to him, this is what we have to do. This is what we have to achieve. As a tradesman, this is what I like to see. And there was no marketing department, which he had at his full-time job, which said, here's your product, and this is the product you've created. Thank you very much. Now the marketing department would like to add this, and this to the product and completely change that product. And there were good reasons to do so. They said, we want to see foam. The customers want to see foam. The data shows that the customers want this foam, or they want that fragrance, or so we want that to add in. The chemist doesn't want that. He knows that without those products, without those raw ingredients, it will actually be a better product. but he has to listen to a marketing department. And that didn't exist with us. We were two people.
You're like, I am the marketing department.
The company was two
we
people,
don't need it.
And one of those people were a detailer, and that really the chemist just spoke to one person, which is a professional detailer. And we think the product was the best product of its type at the time, and still the best product in its latest iteration at the time, because the chemist deals with a detailer and detailer only. So it goes back and forth from chemist to detailer, and that's the only people involved.
And I think we forgot to mention a pretty important aspect of this product is that there's no buckets involved. Am I correct?
No buckets.
So this is the zero bucket method of car washing.
At the time, it was applied to a just poured onto a. I think it was a mitt at the time. This was 2004, 2005, and we just started to see microfiber products come onto the scene. And we were doing things like cutting up microfiber cloths and sewing them by hand around sponges and things like that, mucking around, really basic microfiber products made by buying microfiber cloths and modifying them to other products, and we were pouring it onto the product. But then we adapted it, and by 2006 it was ready for retail sale. And when it was ready for retail sale, we had it available in a spray pack. So it was, Daniel, do you reckon you'd be able to get a spray pack for us? I'll show you the current iteration of the product in a spray pack form.
And while he's getting that, I just want to let our listeners know that we are also simultaneously recording a video to this audio podcast. So if you want to see exactly what Damien's talking about, if you want to see his face, you already know what my face looks like. But if you want to see Damien's face, check out either the Final Inspection website or YouTube channel, or also my YouTube channel, and I'll have it linked up in the show notes below so you can see it. But continue on, Damien.
Yeah, so I've just Daniel, the cameraman, has got a bottle of our.
There's Daniel, the cameraman. Say hi, Daniel. There we go.
G'day, Jimbo.
G'day.
G'day, mate. So that's our current iteration of body shampoo. Is in a spray pack, has always been in a spray pack, and that's so you can avoid using a bucket. And that's going to sound, to most people that will be listening to this, that will sound crazy. Not using buckets to wash your car.
And this is not a waterless product. This is not a rinseless product. This is a full-blown traditional car washing product, just no bucket.
Yeah, it's traditional in the sense that you're using water to rinse, you're using water to pre-rinse, you're using water to post-rinse, but you're not using. It's not traditional in the sense that you're not using any buckets, which is a complete departure from the traditional and even the modern take on the traditional wash. So the traditional wash is to use a bucket, dip your filthy, ugly sponge into that bucket, and pull up a diluted mixture of water and body shampoo. The modern take on that is to use two buckets, and one to rinse and one to, and I'm sure most people will agree with me, it's one for rinse and one for chemical, or two to rinse and a third bucket or a fourth bucket for chemical. We tried the 2-bucket method, we tested the 2-bucket method, and we tested the 4-bucket method, and we tested a 10-bucket method, and it got better. The more buckets you added, the better it was. But by far the best quality wash came from using no buckets. It came from spraying your body shampoo directly onto the mitt or whatever device you were using to wash the car. So you had maximum lubrication between your paintwork and the mitt. You had that in between, and that was concentrated. If you pour that into a bucket, you'll have a diluted mixture of car wash and water. If you spray that directly onto your mitt and then put your mitt onto your paint, you have concentrated body shampoo washing that surface. You have maximum lubrication washing that surface because you're not diluting that chemical into 15 or 20 litres or 30 litres of water. In your case, a gallon or two of water. You're not diluting it at all.
Oh, great. Sorry, there was a little random duel there. So, okay, I'm trying to paint the picture for guys at home. So, because I think this is a phenomenal option for people that either currently do rinseless or waterless car washing, or people that are interested in it. But the fact of the matter is, outside of California, where I'm at, waterless, rinseless car washing isn't huge, and most people can't wrap their mind around it. But so what I love about your product is that it brings in parts of the traditional, but also the effectiveness of a rinseless wash. Maybe that's confusing. Anyway, I tried it. So I've tried it because I'm really big on efficiency and stuff like that. I tried it today, and I have a helper with me, but we had 3 cars washed, vacuumed the whole 9 in 40 minutes using the rinse, the body shampoo that you're talking about, and then a post rinse. So from an efficiency standpoint, it's like uber efficient, and man, is it slick! Holy crap, it is slick.
The product is more lubricating because you're not diluting it in a bucket of water. So you will find that it feels thicker and it feels slicker because you're only moving around the chemical. It's diluted by the water that's on the paint from your initial rinse.
Right.
But the dilution rate is nothing. But yeah, to avoid swirling, you have to maximize lubrication. To maximize lubrication, you want to get as much of the chemical onto the surface as possible in a form as undiluted as possible.
And again, the pre-rinse helps for knocking off a lot of the loose debris that may be on the surface of the car. But for any remnants, and honestly, in the cases that I used, the cars weren't super dirty, and so especially after a pre-rinse, I really wasn't picking up any dirt onto the mitt. But I'm sure if you were to look at it from a microscopic level, there may be little remnants. But so is the wash medium helping to lift the dirt off the paint, or how is that working? And then since there's no bucket involved, how are we making sure that we're not reintroducing any dirt back onto a different panel?
So in a traditional bucket method, you'll be every so often, and you will in this method as well, every so often you'll be rinsing whatever the washing device is, whether it's a wash mitt or a sponge. We don't use sponges, so we'll describe it as a wash mitt from now on.
Okay.
The wash mitt will collect the particles more efficiently if you're using a concentrated car wash on that wash mitt than it will in a bucket. So the wash mitt should fill with particles a little quicker than if you were using a bucket. But it's also, instead of removing those particles and dunking that wash mitt into a bucket of water and hoping with that method while you're dunking it into the water and trying to push the particles out of the wash mitt and clean them up, which is kind of useless. It's just not a very efficient way of removing particles from your wash mitt to dunk them into a bucket of water. It doesn't, we tested that, it actually doesn't really clean. It will dislodge the main particles, the bulk of the particles, but you'll still pull your mitt out with a lot of those particles still in the mitt. Our method is to hose the mitt out with high pressure water. So the process is that your car will be ready for a wash. You'll high pressure the loose debris as you usually do, which is we call the pre-rinse. So you're rinsing the car off and dislodging the bulk of the debris off the car. You spray your mitt with the body shampoo directly onto the mitt and you start to wash that car. When that mitt is dirty, instead of dunking it into the bucket, you're hosing it down with your high pressure hose that you use to pre-rinse. So you go back to your high pressure hose, you rinse out your wash mitt, which is, if it's a good quality wash mitt as ours are, is fine. And you're constantly flushing that wash mitt with fresh water. In a bucket, you're dunking it into the bucket and rinsing it with the dirty water that you've created. With a high pressure hose, you push those particles out more efficiently because it's high pressure. You remove the particles from the mitt and you keep rinsing it with fresh water. Eventually that becomes clean, and it's a very efficient and quick way of cleaning your mitt completely, not dunking it into a bucket. So when you reapply your shampoo and continue to wash the car, you've got a clean washing device and you've got less particles that you're pushing around. Think of it like a clay bar. If people are aware of how clay bars work, they absorb the particles from the surface, and you kind of manipulate the clay bar and try to find a cleaner area and then start decontaminating the next panel. You've always got those particles in the clay bar that you keep reintroducing to the surface, and they keep that mechanical action of rubbing those particles along the surface creates swirling. It's the same thing with your wash mitt. Your wash mitt, dunking your wash mitt into a bucket doesn't get rid of all the particles. Then you push those particles along the surface and you create swirling. With our method, you're removing much more of those particles. You're removing them quicker and more efficiently as well. You're using less water because you don't fill a bucket full of water, and you're having a better quality. You get a better quality wash as well because you have less particles in the wash mitt. You also use less shampoo. You're not diluting shampoo into a bucket, you're spraying it efficiently onto the surface of the washing device. So it's quicker, it's a better quality wash, which is the most important thing. Really, as a professional high-end detailer, all we care about is I want the highest quality wash. I want to install for my customers, I like the word install, the least amount of swirling. Even if I'm about to detail that car and I'm about to do paint correction, I don't want to install more imperfections that I just have to remove in 45 minutes time. I want to look after that car as good as possible. It minimises the amount of correction that I need to do. It makes my correction faster. It means I'm removing less paint from the customer's car. There's more profitability involved in more efficient processes, which is what we're all about as a company. When we make a car care product, it's about efficiency first. Efficiency and quality. So you want to achieve a certain level of quality, which is the highest possible, in a way that's as efficient as possible. And that's what this wash process does. It's one of the processes we use. And getting rid of those two buckets achieves a quality wash, and it achieves efficiency as well. If it took longer to do, we would still do it. So if the no bucket method was slower, I would still recommend that method. It just happens to be, as a happy side effect, a faster method as well as being the highest quality method. We also tested with 2 buckets, we tested with 4 buckets, as I said before, and we tested with grit separators, which unfortunately don't work. They're very popular. So buckets with grit separators are used all the time. We see them everywhere. We tested those. We knew they weren't going to work, but we thought, what the hell, we'll carry out a proper test. And by proper test, what I mean is we would wash a car with the 2 bucket method with grit separators. And after every couple of panels, when we would normally dunk that mitt into the bucket again, we would take the water from that mitt and run it into a separate bucket and collect that water to be analysed later. Then we washed another car, or the other half of the same car, with the no bucket method, with a spray-on technique. And we would, every couple of panels, we would get rid of that water, put it into another separate container. Then we run those separate containers through some inline filters and analyse the filters to see how many particles they caught. The wash method with the 2 buckets and the grit separators had far, far more particles, over 100 times more particles in the water than the no bucket method, especially after the end of the car. So at the end of the car, when dunking the mitt into the 2 bucket method collected and held onto a lot of particles, they were present in the filter when we filtered that water. Whereas the no bucket method, the mitt was so clean that at the end of that car, the water that was in that mitt had far, far fewer particles. And it's those particles, or the lack of the particles in the wash mitt, that minimize swirling on the surface.
Wow. If people want to, I think you've given us just a load of information, and I love this body shampoo. And in fact, the guy, my assistant, the guy I have helping me, was like, because we've been doing rinseless car washing for a while, and today, he's a little timid of a guy, but today we did about three cars with the body shampoo and the mitt and the whole deal. And he's a little timid, so at the end of the day, he goes, Jimbo, you know what? I think we should start doing this over the rinseless method. He goes, I think it's faster, and the cars look really good. That was his really non-technical way of saying he wants to do this method from now on.
Yeah. the method is better, and our waterless wash method is something we've used before. We did have water restrictions in Melbourne at one point for a couple of years, and we had to adapt and use low water or no water methods. Sometimes on site we do a little bit of presentation for manufacturers, for car manufacturers, and we'll go on site and clean cars with no water source around for photographs for the press or something like that. So sometimes we'll go into the outback with a bunch of cars with a car company, and the journos will be driving the cars, and then they have to stop and take photos of those cars, and the manufacturer wants them to be clean, and we have no other way of cleaning them other than a low water method. So if you have to use a low water method or low rinse method, it's a last resort, but unfortunately have to use it. Unfortunately, this product is not suitable for that. But if you don't have to use a low water method, if you have a water source available to you, which most car enthusiasts would, we always recommend using the full-blown adapted traditional method and using water to pre-rinse the car and then water to rinse the car afterwards.
And even if you are dealing with water restrictions, it really doesn't leave much runoff. It really doesn't. If people are in Australia, how can they connect with you? How can they buy some of this product? And if you're outside of Australia, we have a special offer for you too, especially if you're in fact, if you're only in the United States, we have a special offer for you. But for people outside of the United States, how can they connect with Final Inspection? How can they get their hands on some of this body shampoo?
Yeah, well, if they just wanted to connect with Final Inspection just to better understand the company, as much as I hate to say it, our Facebook page is probably the best way to go. So have a look at Final Inspection Auto Boutique on Facebook. It's a good way to understand what we're about, what we do on a daily basis. We are still professional detailers, so we still detail cars. This is this week's detail behind us.
Nice.
That's about to leave. We detail cars every day. We only detail about one car a day now, which is kind of low. It's not. It's certainly a long way from our peak service numbers. But we detail cars in order to stay in the loop. So we can still refer to a detailer and say, and as we do, this is the third, almost fourth iteration of this product, and we will constantly optimize products. Every 24 months we come back to a product and we'll say, how can we improve that if we can? Is there any new technology that we can put into this product? And we'll go to the detailer to do that. We will say to a detailer who works as a professional detailer every day, how do we make that product better? What would you like to see? Or the detailer will come to us and say, this is what I'd like to see in a product, in a completely new product, or I'd like to tweak a product that I use of yours in this way. And then we'll take that information and optimize that product, or even create a new product. It's important that we detail cars every day, and you'll be able to see that on our Facebook page. You'll see those cars being detailed every day, and it's important to stay in touch with detailing. If you stop detailing cars and you don't understand cars evolve, the paint changes and there's new materials being used. And if you don't see those and work with those on a daily basis, you have no idea how to make proper products.
Yeah.
So if you jump on our Facebook page, you'll see a mixture of the products. You'll also see a lot of the details that we do on a daily basis.
Awesome. And if you are in the United States and you want to get half off of this product to get it in your hands to try it, I promise you, you will love it. And in fact, if you don't love it, I'll probably buy it back and use it myself because I really do. So head on over to autodetailingpodcast.com/final inspection, and there you will be able to purchase it. That's autodetailingpodcast.com/final inspection. And Damien, we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Jimbo.